Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to another little video I'd like to bring your way for another little suggestion. For those who are new, I like to make these little videos about things that I enjoy and want to share, usually about film, but not exclusively, as in the case of this video, which is about a couple of books that I came across. But before I get started, if you enjoy this content, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing and hitting that little bell icon, wherever it is, to get notifications for when I put up new content, which is usually once or twice a week, though I am trying to work in more content if possible. Be sure to stick around watching the video all the way through to the end, and check out my previous catalog here and share both this video and channel around, as it really does help out quite a bit. So, to start off here, it's been a while since I've done one of these. I'm a notoriously slow reader. Before the pandemic started, I used to read between 20 and 30 books a year, which I considered kind of slow. Now I've been doing about 3 to 5. But currently there are a few that I wanted to bring your way and suggest. First one is this one, Once Upon a Time in Carrotland. Now this one says it's by Josh Carrott, and here's the reason why I say it says that. So this was a prank gift that Ollie, of Josh and Ollie fame from the YouTube channel Jolly, had made for Josh. So basically Ollie wrote Josh's autobiography under his name, so of course it's 100% true. But anyway, so there's a lot of really crazy little stories that he put together in here, embellishing certain things, making up stuff in general, and he gifted it to Josh, and I'll put a link to that video in my description here as well. But yeah, it's nothing but pure humor, nothing to take too seriously. I mean, there's literally stuff about a goose that's on fire or something along those lines. I mean, it's really, really ridiculous. He has an imaginary friend that is a little tiny carrot, and I believe he has a T-Rex imaginary friend as well somewhere in there. Anyways, it's completely crazy, insane, but it's short, quick, funny. It's really good stuff. And if you haven't watched anything from Jolly, you may not be very interested in this one. So I would say to go ahead and check out some Jolly and then consider picking this up from Amazon. Second one here, this one's a bit interesting as well. So it's fan fiction by Brent. Now, the way that this was brought my way was by a man that I would occasionally chat with up at local Barnes & Noble. We were chatting about books recently, and then he just basically said, oh, there's this autobiography of this guy who he played a robot in Star Trek. And yeah, so he wasn't familiar with Star Trek at all, or with Brent Spiner, anything with Next Generation especially, but he insisted that I read this because he said it was fun, it went pretty quickly, and that Brent Spiner had a very strange situation happen in his life that he's surprised that he hadn't heard about. So yeah, I picked this up on the same trip when I had picked up Yours Cruelly, Elvira, which I will link to that book review below as well. And it didn't take me that long to kind of get into this book and realize that the situations that Brent Spiner was talking about were really crazy, and I was surprised that I hadn't heard about any of them in any other interviews, or if it's like speaking at a con or something. And that's because none of it actually happened. This really is a fan fiction, because I didn't actually even read anything about what this was about. I just took one man's suggestion and picked it up and figured I'd give it a shot. So I went into it with what he was telling me was that it was actually a true story, but it's not. It is a fictitious story that he wrote around the time that I believe there was an episode that had just aired for Star Trek called The Offspring, that aired probably a couple months before when this story takes place. And so it has to do with this crazed fan who's been contacting him, sending him some very strange letters and body parts in the mail. The FBI gets involved. He needs to have like personal security. But what's interesting about it is that he used all of the actors who he was working with on Star Trek as characters in this story. So real people, real time frame, but the situation around it is this fictitious story that he put together that was an interesting, fun, quick little mystery. Definitely worth checking out. But the big one here, literally the biggest one, is this one, Bowie. Stardust, Rayguns, and Moonage, Daydreams. This is written and illustrated by like Michael Allred, Steve Horton, Laura Allred, and has a foreword by Neil Gaiman as well. So this is a graphic novel about Bowie and kind of like early in his career, and the people, places, and events and everything around the time that he was kind of forming himself and his act and what he wanted to produce for the world and how he wanted to present himself, going from that level of obscurity to fame. The way the story is told moves along really well. It's a really great ride, and just for the pictures alone, the artwork within this is really interesting. I really love it. It's worth purchasing just for that alone. But the actual story itself about the beginning of his career and him achieving fame and success was a really great read. Figure kind of like a more interesting beginning of his fame and success than we saw in the 2020 film Stardust, which, don't get me wrong, there was some good stuff within that film, but I think it not being kind of authorized and them not being able to use any of his music, a lot of it really fell flat. So this is a really good replacement for that. It's a very interesting graphic novel, and I definitely recommend you checking it out. And that's all that I have for these 3 quick books to check out on this little book review here. Speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out my channel here, my video, and sticking around to the end, as just like all those other YouTube things, it really does help out quite a bit. I hope to have some other book reviews sometime in the future. Like I say, I'm a notoriously slow reader, but we'll see when I have some time to put up a few more, and I will see you in the next one.